YA dystopian repetition. Let's talk about that. So I was reading this the other day, Fire and Flood by Victoria Scott, and basically it's about this girl who gets a message from these game hosts or whatever, saying that she is invited to compete in the Brimstone Bleed, which is a race, and the prize for the race is a cure for any disease, and she wants it to cure her brother. And it's basically like a dystopian type story. So I was reading this, and in the book, the protagonist Tella cuts her hair. And it felt very reminiscent of when Triss cuts her hair in Insurgent, in the Divergent trilogy. And instantly I thought, oh, YA dystopian, always being repetitive and blah blah blah. But then I got to thinking, is it really being repetitive? Can no other YA dystopian book have a protagonist who cuts their hair? I mean, if we're talking about repetitive, I read this a few months ago and I felt it was really repetitive. The Testing by Joel Charbonneau, another dystopian, and I felt the basic premise of the book, the characters, they all felt very reminiscent and repetitive of other YA characters and aspects of YA books. And because I felt it was really reminiscent and really repetitive, I give it 2.5 stars, I think it was, or 3 stars. I think it was 2.5. But then, after seeing Tella cut her hair in Fire and Flood, I wasn't sure anymore whether I was unfairly critiquing the book or not. Like, if someone who hadn't read The Hunger Games read The Testing, they probably would have really liked it. But because I already read The Hunger Games, the Legend trilogy, the Divergent trilogy, this felt very repetitive. But is that really fair on this book? If I were to separate it as just its own book, sure, it did have its own flaws, and, you know, the characters weren't that well developed and stuff like that, but would I have given it a higher rating? I mean, is Twilight being repetitive of Romeo and Juliet with the whole star-crossed lovers? I guess they aren't in the same genre. But other YA romantic paranormal novels, are they being repetitive of the Twilight books? And obviously the answer is no, but that got me thinking, where's the line between repetition, between copying, and a book being its own story? And for me, lately, it's kind of become really difficult to locate that line, and I don't know how then to write my review or talk about my review if a book feels repetitive of another book or a lot of other books, because I feel like it's not really a fair way to critique the book. But all the same, there are a few books that they do really feel like they're blatantly copying other books. I mean, there are other ways to review a book, obviously, like the writing style, the actual development of the characters, but the plot plays a huge aspect in like every book, not most books, every freaking book. So with books that feel repetitive, how do you go about reviewing that, critiquing that? Do you take it as an original, unique, its own book? Or are you allowed to say that it's repetitive, kind of copying off another book? I mean, that author might not even have read or heard of that book that you are comparing it to. So where, what? I was actually going to give this a 3 stars on Goodreads, but I decided to give it a 4, because while it did feel reminiscent of The Hunger Games and some parts Divergent, I decided only to review it and critique it as its own book. Obviously there were flaws, but it was a good story. So yes, that's basically all my thoughts in my head. What do you guys think about YA dystopian repetition, or like repetition in general with books? Do you take that into account when you're reviewing the books? What do you feel? Where's the line for you? I hope you liked it, nevertheless. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to, whatever. And I will see you guys with another video soon. Slán.